Hello and welcome to Connect, the weekly podcast of the California MBA featuring one-on-one interviews with movers and shakers in the mortgage industry. I'm Susan Milazzo, CEO of the California MBA, and I'm very happy that you could join us today. Before I welcome today's guests, I'd like to thank our 2025 President's Council sponsors. And these are companies that provide a tremendous amount of financial support to the California MBA, in large part so that we can continue to be that strong voice for the real estate finance industry before the California State Legislature and our regulators. So please join me in thanking this year's President's Council sponsors. And those companies are AmeriHome, Consolidated Analytics, Funding Shield, Guild Mortgage, Rocket Mortgage, Wiener Brodsky Kiter, and Western Alliance Bank. Thank you all so much for your support this year. We greatly appreciate that. And with that, I'd like to welcome today's guest, Cody Charfauros, who is Principal and Managing Director at Slatt Capital. Cody, welcome.
Thanks for having me back.
Cody also has been a guest on Connect in the past, so thank you for coming back. I think the last time you were on was in the fall of 2022, how time flies. What are some of the biggest changes that you've seen in the CRE market since that time?
Yeah, it's interesting you asked me that because sort of in preparation for our conversation, I went back and looked at that old Connect podcast. And a lot of the topics and a lot of my comments are very similar to where we are right now. It seems the more things change, the more they stay the same, right? I mean, interest rates were challenging back then. Volume was low and potentially growing lower. We had concerns over what might happen with the election, which we now have some clarity on, of course. But a lot of uncertainty, and it really is the same story right now. The business is doing well. Our pipeline is doing fairly well, but every transaction is incredibly challenging. Our borrowers are not interested in taking the kind of interest rates that are available in today's market. Some of them are taking it regretfully. Some of them are trying to kick the can down the road as much as possible. We've seen a lot of lenders extend credit longer on maturing loans than we had anticipated. And even though the last time you and I spoke on this podcast was almost 3 years ago, we're basically in the same market we were then. It's kind of amazing.
That's interesting. Wow. I know I was also thinking about that podcast, and I think we talked at the time, and I know you have a real passion for this, but the adoption of technology in the commercial real estate finance space. And it's interesting to me because there's so much, so fast for so many years on the residential side, and it just seems to be at a different pace with commercial, but I see a lot more of it arising. So where do you think CRE is with technology in today's market?
Yeah, very good question. And similarly to my previous response, we're about in the same boat we were at before. However, I do think there are some further developments in technology and commercial real estate. It has become more acceptable to have, say, some level of AI tools involved in some, graphic packaging or some basic analysis in commercial real estate. We are seeing some of our more sophisticated investors use AI, for example, to do some basic level of underwriting, maybe top level vetting of deals, some due diligence on properties. I've seen a number of attorneys, for example, use AI tools like ChatGPT or Grok to review leases and look at some lease language that is important to pay attention to. A lot of people are using it as a sophisticated search engine, essentially, but you obviously have to verify that everything is correct and everything. We've got no hallucination issues, but it is a tool set that has integrated into commercial real estate a lot faster than I expected. That's a big development from 2022 because the LLMs really weren't a factor back then. But in addition to just AI, we are seeing other tool sets become a lot more commonplace. Back then, we were market leading at Slatt Capital in terms of the way we track our deals, the way we review every one of the loan offers. All of the loan comps is what we call them within our database, and share that information internally for the benefit of our sponsors for the borrowers that work with us. There have been other companies that have been trying to catch up to us from what we hear. The use of technology has become a much more day-to-day part of our work. And so that has increased, yes.
Yeah, and that use of, I mean, AI is just in everything, and it is growing. And you've given some great examples of how it can be really useful in a transaction. Interesting to all continue to monitor kind of how the growth of technology in the CRE space. Cody, you're of course a member of our board. You're on our executive board, and part of our leadership that has allowed us to be engaged heavily in finding solutions to return stability to the California insurance market. It's a huge issue for everybody in our state, especially lenders, both on the residential and commercial sides. How is the insurance crisis impacting commercial lending these days?
Yeah, very good question. We've, as you know, been on the insurance crisis issue before anybody else was really calling it a crisis. For the last 4 years, we've been shouting at anybody we possibly can, every one of our lawmakers, to let them know that, yes, maybe there's some distress in the residential side of the business, which of course we advocate for as well. But on the commercial real estate side, a lot of lawmakers just don't realize that a lot of the smaller mom and pop tenants, maybe at your nail salon tenant that's owned by a small business owner, they pay the insurance directly among the other, what we call triple net expenses. And so if there is an increase on a retail center or on a small industrial property, that gets passed through directly to those types of tenants. And then on top of that, if apartment buildings, if insurance increases on an apartment building, then that has to be passed through in some way to the bottom line rent. And what we're trying to just keep everyone aware of is that the insurance crisis definitely does touch commercial real estate. Now, we have had some success with our intervention and your leadership, Susan. The CMBA has been in incredible conversations, most recently at our legislative day, with the insurance industry sort of joined at our hip to try to help come up with some solutions and support solutions that are on the table with lawmakers. And that was a tremendously fruitful day. And we're excited to see some of the added pressure and added momentum with this issue.
Yeah, we continue to press and support the sustainable insurance strategy that the Department of Insurance is trying to implement. So thank you for that. We continue to work on the insurance industry here in California, as you say, with a lot of our partners, industry partners as well. In addition to your service as in our leadership, you're also chair of this year's Western States CREF Conference. I always like to give a shout out to Barry Slatt Capital, because Barry helped start that conference, and now you get to be chair this year, which is awesome. Can you share with our listeners some of the highlights that we'll be featuring this year?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm super excited about this year because, like every year, we have really good content. We have phenomenal speakers and panelists that will give us the latest and greatest on what's happening in the commercial real estate industry. We'll also be doing a lot of networking. A lot of business will happen at Western States CREF, as it always does. Something about being all together in Las Vegas just helps us all do a little bit more business together. But we'll also just be in a position to get a sense of what's happening with each other. How do we collaborate on best practices? How do we use or talk about some of the tools that we've all discovered, and just make the industry overall stronger? One of the ones I'm really excited about is the keynote discussion with Willie Walker of Walker & Dunlop. The Walker Webcast is a really great podcast with all sorts of really interesting folks that Willie interviews. And we'll be doing a live Walker Webcast as a part of our keynote presentation with Ronnie Gould, who's the CCEO of Mesa West Capital. So that's going to be an electric discussion. I'm sure those two are not going to pull punches on how they see the industry going, and the kind of influence that they see and have on everything. And I'm really excited just to hear that discussion happen. But it's all going to be good. It's Vegas, baby.
Yeah, Vegas, baby. Yeah, I'm excited about that too. The Walker webcast should be very informative and exciting to be our keynote luncheon presentation this year. Of course, Western States CREF is our signature event for our commercial lenders in the CRE industry, but the support we receive through membership is also crucial for us to continue our mission. So Cody, can you share with our listeners, maybe people that are considering becoming members, what some of the values of membership are in the California MBA?
Yeah, absolutely. And as being a board member and now an executive board member, I see it most intimately day in and day out, the kind of influence that the CMBA has on our industry. And it's an influence that, it's up to us to make sure is a positive, fruitful influence. And it has been for many, many years. So besides the deep collaboration that we have among member companies, the best practices that we share, all of the opportunities for us to network with one another, et cetera. As you mentioned, our members really do directly fund the advocacy effort that we do in California. And as a saying goes, unfortunately, positively and negatively, as goes California, often goes the rest of the country. So from an investment perspective, the way that we can advocate for our industry in California is an outsized percentage of influence than it is in, say, another regional mortgage banking association, because the rule sets that are given in California, the kind of law that's passed in California, is often a canary in the coal mine for what may happen in the rest of the country. And so we work very closely with the national MBA to make sure that we're in alignment on all of our goals. And they lean on us with any new California-based legislation so that we can influence the people that need to be influenced, inform the people that need to be informed, and keep our membership abreast of any major developments there. So again, it's those three pillars. It's collaboration, best practices, and advocacy that really focuses our efforts in the California MBA, and the member companies really support that.
Yeah, thank you so much. We appreciate that. And thank you so much for being on Connect. It's been a pleasure. I will see you in a couple weeks at Western States CREF.
See you in Vegas. Looking forward to it.
And thanks to all of you for joining us today. To access any of our past episodes, you can follow us on our YouTube channel. We're also available on SoundCloud, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. That's it for this week, and we'll see you next time on Connect.
Here we go.